Hey, so welcome everybody. We're here to talk about one of the things that Dale and I love the most, and that's the World's Fair Futures.
Yes.
So Dale.
It's always fun to take a peek. Now, some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, you and I know is already pretty close to happening. Other things are way out there and may never happen, but nonetheless, it's exciting to dream and to think about what's coming next as we try to make FME the tool that you all go to get the most out of your data for your organization.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So my name is Dale Lutz. I'm one of the two co-founders of Safe Software.
Yep, and I'm Don Murray. I'm the other co-founder, and it's easy to keep us apart. Just remember who has hair and who doesn't, and there you go.
I think I'm wearing the same shirt as on that picture, Don. Actually, so.
Yeah, no, I broke out a special shirt for this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool shirt. Cool shirt.
It is.
So we always put this in here, which is really just to say that we are kind of winging it and going off the cuff, and so some of the stuff we're going to talk about, you shouldn't base your business upon because it may not come to pass, but we do nothing that we're going to say do we believe won't ever happen, but we just can't say when it will. Yeah.
That's right.
So
that's right.
So please be careful.
Yeah, so as we look into the crystal ball, there's a number of trends that we're going to touch on today. The first one is working to make our entire platform smarter to help the user have a better experience. Data volumes continue to grow, and so data volumes and performance is something that we take very seriously at Safe. So we're going to talk about all the options that we're working on and that you have to tackle high data volumes. And industry-leading application at Safe, we work to connect applications and data. And so, of course, with every release, we're constantly expanding the reach of the FME platform.
And then we'll swing around and look at what our roadmap is on the mobile side. There's a couple of parts there to look at, pretty exciting stuff. And Don's going to take us on a tour of the future of deployment in FME, and I think that's a really expanding area, and it's exciting, the technology that we're able to take advantage of there. And then lastly, we saved kind of the best for last, and that's looking at where some of the tools we're building will take us as far as enterprise integration goes. And so I think, Don, we should get after it.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
But first.
Oh,
I know. This is the opposite. Don and I were talking that this isn't really the roadmap. This is whatever's in the rearview mirror. But I know that, and so we really do want your feedback on this. But we are thinking that Windows 32-bit, and Python 2.7 are getting a little bit long in the tooth, and it's time to begin to start talking about saying goodbye. And so we know that for some of you, this is still important, and we want to just lay out what our plans are. So, of course, FME 2021 fully it supported both those, but we didn't ship Python 2.7. It was a separate install. Right. But Don, I'm thinking that FME 2022 might be the last one of its kind as far as these things go.
Yeah, and it's exciting to say goodbye to Win 32. We've said goodbye to Win 16, many years ago, and so so this will really allow the team to just focus purely on Win 64. And then all the platforms that we support are 64-bit. So it's a big deal. Yeah. So
what we're saying here is that FME 2022 would be just like 2021 as far as what it supports. And that means you can install Python 2.7 and use Python 2.7 things. And that means the old PyFME will still work as well. But FME 2023, we would drop support for that, but we will keep FME 2022 alive, I guess, on life support. So if a breaking security patch needs to happen, we would patch it with that. If there's a new grid shift for Australia or something, we would roll that in, but really it would kind of ride off into the sunset and allow you the time for those 3 years to get off of it. But do let us know if this is a big issue for you, and operators are standing by right now.
Yeah. March 2026. That's a long way out, Dale.
Yeah, but it feels like it could be tomorrow as far as we know, Don. Every day is the same as the day before. So I don't know how long that is.
Right, that's right. It'll be here before we know it, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a look at some of the true future things on the user experience side. And one that we know has been an issue for our customers for years and years is how in the world do they find the right transformer out of that toolkit of almost 600 transformers. And so we are looking at techniques to look at past usage stats, analysis of workspaces that we've had sent into support and that our own team has created to try to figure out and make suggestions. And so fading in and out there, we had a visual or a suggestion Dimitri actually made probably 10 years ago, along with a modern one, but we're really hoping we can do something there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so this is the type of information we collect when you turn on user stats. It's really not any information about the user. It's just about the how the order that you lay down things. So yeah.
Yeah. And Don has made a really good observation that if we know you're working with shape files, that might help us pick certain transformers to suggest, which might be different than if you're working with rasters or Excel. So we are looking at how we can do something there. And I think that the team will come up with something soon.
Or XML maybe.
Yeah, XML, that's true, actually. XML does seed the query quite nicely. So here is an artist's conception of what the attribute filter might look like when we start to roll out our data aware. When you're in feature caching mode, we can try to make the authoring experience take advantage of the data that we know is there. And so attribute filter would join the tester and test filter and attribute manager as well. Some of these data aware things where we can figure out what's going on with the data right there.
Yeah,
I think Don,
so go ahead, Dale.
I think you're excited about this rolling into the JSON and XML ones too.
Yeah, absolutely. The ability to see, values that you have in your data enables you, as you're authoring your workspaces, to start to understand the data even more. So that's a huge step forward. Yeah.
Yeah. This area of active metadata is something that we know in the industry is a big deal. And there's quite a bit you can do with FME at runtime to understand what kind of data is going by. So one of the things that we are adding, though, is dusting off some code that Don wrote when he was a young man, not that long ago at all. The famous Schema Scanner in FME that you throw a bunch of data through it. Don created this long ago for helping us make sense of CAD files, but we're going to expose it as a transformer. You throw any data you want through it, and it'll compute the best fit schema from that data.
It's exciting.
Yeah, and then you can make decisions. You could do QA on that. You could use that schema to create the output, or you could use that schema to compare to something that you want from before. So we're pretty excited about this. And this one is for sure coming. I've actually seen a demo of it, and it's working already. And related to this, so the Schema Scanner transformer is about data at runtime, but at design time, the attribute manager will also be able to tell you what kind of data types are in your data that we think from the design information we've got, and that's what I'm circling right there. And then you could give FME a hint to say, you know what, no, that's really going to be a varchar of 30 and make some changes there. And if we are in feature caching mode, we can use Don's old code again, hit a button here, import, and compute the best schema from the data that we've got at that moment. So lots of things around metadata going on.
Yeah, that's great.
The Clipper, boy, oh boy, that thing has grown from humble beginnings into a fairly ambitious redesign. The redesign is almost complete now. As far as the user experience, it'll be able to clip both 2D and 3D, and all these different data types as well have a role in there. And we'll tune it for high data volumes as well. So a lot of stuff happening on the Clipper side. Clipper is pretty popular transformer, and so it's going to get a look. Right. So this is for the user parameter dialog builder. In FME 2021, for custom transformers, you can create quite rich dialog boxes. And actually, if as we record this, the blog just came out. By the time you see this, it'll be about a month ago. But on our website today, on our blog, there is a whole deep dive into this, as well as this future functionality, which is going to allow you to turn off and on chunks of the dialog based on other chunks of the dialog. And I'm pretty excited about this, not only for custom transformers, but also eventually for FME server apps, which will be able to just think of the power to create rich apps that have such powerful dialogues. Yeah,
very good. Yeah, on the desktop side as well, we're combining FME desktop and server to have basically have one platform where you would license all your FME needs in one spot, and then you can control them through one FME server. So for example, you might get a license for the platform that says I have 5 authoring seats and I have 4 engines, and those authoring seats then could be shared to anybody who has access to that server. And then track, you'd be able to borrow licenses, you'd be able to do all the things that you're used to doing, but it'll be just much easier for you to manage and administer your entire FME platform.
Awesome. And I love the graphics that our design team has. I think there's going to be a party every time somebody licenses, Don.
Moving confetti, I love it. Yeah.
Yes.
The lizard likes it too. He keeps winking. Yeah.
Yeah. A key thing about FME for the enterprise, and we've talked about this for several years now, is how we really want FME to be an enterprise tool. One of the key pieces when compared to our competition of writing Python code or C++ code is being able to compare what you have now to what someone else suggests you use or what someone had in the past. And so we've got a really fantastic design. We've had at least 2 prototypes done of this, of doing a visual diff. And we're pretty excited about what this is going to unleash. And it's going to be a very, very big deal. And it's a very important stepping stone to the next piece, which is about version control.
Yeah, and so we added version control to the server a while back, and it was a good first attempt. But what we're doing now is we're looking at it on the workspace side, on desktop, and really determine a really great way to push data. Not data, but workspaces to a Git repository. And then once we've done that, we'll make sure that server and desktop are compatible. So you will be able to publish things with desktop to the repository, and then server would be able to pull it down. It also helps for the whole DevOps ability of moving things from one version of server to another in a really well-controlled manner. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, so these last 2 pieces are really a 1-2 punch. You got to be able to diff things so that we can know what's changed, and then we're going to figure out how we're going to put our changes into Git and then use them to deploy. It's going to be a really, really powerful 1-2 combo, and also across the whole platform. So on FME server and desktop, it'll share the same thing. Unicode. Well, this symbol in the center should be a heart, but it wasn't available. So the Unicode replacement character was used. But starting with 2021.1, so not right now, but very, very soon, FME will always operate as a Unicode application on Windows 10. And of course, by default on Macintosh and Linux, it is a Unicode app. And this, a lot of plumbing had to be done. And actually, even if you are on an older version of Windows or using FME 2021.0, we're way better with our handling of Unicode characters than we've ever been. And we're really looking forward to putting that one to bed forever here very, very soon.
Yeah. This is a big effort and a big deal. So then no matter where you have data from, for organizations that have data from all over the world, they might have different character sets. With this, it's just gonna work.
Yeah. FME is actually older than Unicode, Don. So
yeah,
so
it's older than XML too.
Yes. So it's exciting to get the overhaul and the renovation basically done so we can do this. Huge team effort.
Yeah, and on the server side, we're really working to support new server deployments. Server deployments are getting bigger and bigger with more complex jobs that go from everything from ones that are really quick to run with ones that can take hours or days. And so we're really working to deliver a server that allows you to define rules so that jobs can be automatically assigned and engines can be automatically assigned. So we delivered the first version of this in FME 2021.0, but we've only begun to take advantage of that. So then engines will will move on by themselves from queue to queue, depending on what's going on, times of day and things like that. So this is a big deal for these more advanced deployments of FME server.
Yeah, pretty impressive. So walk us through, Don.
So here's just one example that's coming with engine assignment. So in this case, it would say if the engine is dynamic and the number of jobs on a queue is greater than 0, some number, then you can assign the engine to that queue. And to do this now, we actually have a workspace that runs periodically that checks queues using the REST API. And it's pretty cumbersome, also requires an engine. And so this will just take it to the next level. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very powerful.
Yeah. There you go. So the Zipster's even really excited. He gets it. And he's excited that, he just wants to know, when are the engine rules processed? So, are they, yeah. So that's a good question, Zipster. Good question. Yeah.
Ah.
So yes, so they'll be done dynamically. So every time an engine finishes processing a job, it will reevaluate the rules to see if it's going to stay on the same queue or be reassigned to other queues. Because it could just be you might have an engine that during the day is assigned to some queues, and then at 5 o'clock, when basically people are leaving, it's then assigned to other queues. So you could have jobs that just sit on jobs that sit on queues, and then the engines are assigned to them after hours. So really,
cool.
really powerful. Yeah. Yeah. And this is going to make Holly, as the lizards say, really, really happy, because there's a workspace that Holly and I built that would automatically assign engines to queues and looking for work. And as you can see, it breaks my 10 transformer rule. So it's a little bit more complex than it should, and requires a great understanding of the REST API. So all that's just going to disappear. So Holly is mighty, mighty happy.
I will give Holly quite high marks for her use of bookmarks, though. That's very nice. Yes. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. So it's going to rebalance engine resources on the fly. And this is really great when we start also thinking about future deployments like Kubernetes and serverless and things like that. So so stay tuned for that. So that we're pretty excited about that. Yeah.
So all of that, Don, is really laying a huge groundwork piece foundation for the overall trend we're seeing of high data volume. So just when Don and I began, 10,000, I remember the biggest data set was 40,000 features. And we thought, oh, this is a huge thing, 40,000 rows. Absolutely. Now, without exaggeration, it's 40 million that we have. Actually, I thought it was 40 million. One customer is trying to do 68 million rows with one run. So yeah, data volumes are higher.
Yeah. And according to the IDC, you can see the chart there. By the year 2025, it's 175 trillion gigabytes. That's of new data, Dale. That's not cumulative. That's new data every year. So you can see all the data that organizations are collecting. And so they want to process that. You don't just get data and just let it sit there. That's called dark data. Did you know that? That's called dark data. I learned that data you collect and you never actually get any value from. And so they collect data, they want to get value from it. And so that's really what FME is all about. And so then we're doing a few things to meet that challenge. Yeah.
And so part of that is processing it in streams, which is a big emphasis of FME 2021.0, and we're going to continue to refine that. But in general, we got to be looking at how we're going to deal with that at our processing level so that we can take advantage of this thing we call bulk mode, which is a new architecture that we've been developing for more than 5 years for handling measured in millions of rows in very, very fast ways. And so we are really continuing to roll that out across the top transformers. A lot got done in the current release. A lot more is planned. We're kind of, we had a Project Ludicrous, and now we're ready to do Project Plaid. And we may even do a Plaid Plus eventually for those that know the reference. But that's all about trying to really make the engine as fast as possible. We also have a well-oiled guard to stop us from going backwards. And that's a hard thing because actually sometimes stuff gets slower on Linux and faster on Windows, and we got to figure out why. And so the team is doing that. But as we say here, really, we're trying to deal with millions of things in a timely fashion. So that's the goal.
Yeah, that's right. Because everybody, as Zipster says, cares about performance. Like that's one thing that as data volumes go up, everybody cares about performance. So it's kind of funny with FME now. Bulk mode is almost everywhere, but every once in a while you hit something that's not in bulk mode, and now you feel it. Whereas before FME seemed fast, but bulk mode it spoils you really, really quickly.
Yeah. So it's pretty fun seeing that happening. And bulk mode also lays a good foundation for us to continue to add more multi-threading in there. So we can try to do that across the bulk mode features, process them in parallel. So if I give you, Don, like 1 million features to clip, you might want to get 4 of your friends and then clip them all in parallel and send them on their way. And I say here on this slide that readers and writers could be in their own threads. And that was something that was in Don's original design of FME. The comments are still in the code as to where we would patch that in. And so one day we may do that too.
Absolutely. And really the goal is that, right from the engine all the way up the stack, we want to exploit the full capability of the processors and the platforms we're running on. And these processors now have, 64 cores, some of them, the number of cores is greatly expanding. And so we want to make sure that users can exploit the full power that they have available. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Don, you may remember we had a chart like this for the release of FME 2021. And what's this you're forecasting here?
Yeah, it's just, how much faster is FME 22 going to be than 2021? We know it's going to be faster, and we know there's going to be a few things that are single digit faster, and we know there's going to be a few things that are going to be 3 digits faster.
Yeah.
And but in general, we have just an amazing team working both on geometry and in bulk mode and all the algorithms across the engine just to make everything faster. So yeah.
And in the same way, the data inspector is going to get a little bit of attention here, because if people are giving us millions of rows, we have to be able to try to display that in some fashion. So here's a little rendering of displaying a prototype of displaying 200,000 things and making it splash up there fairly fast. Also on the 3D side, the technology we're using is starting to get a bit creaky, so we're gonna give that a look as well. This was COVID data, actually, COVID case data that we took a sample of 200,000 points around the world and just were displaying.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Yeah, and on the parallel processing side, the goal is to enable you to hook up as many engines as you want. And so you imagine every engine now can be multi-threaded. Now you can put those engines together. And this is the architectural layout of an FME server we actually deployed and for the World's Fair, so you can check into the video on that. And we deployed 1,000 engines, and basically we did 9,000 hours of processing in 1 hour. And yeah, it runs great. And of course, next year we want to do more. So we have a number of things we can improve on server to make sure we can even take it to the next level. But you can just imagine what you can do with 1,000 FME engines. It's crazy. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing.
And then in the automation side, the nice thing about automations is it makes parallelism easy wherever you have parallel workflows, or you have an FME automation writer that's outputting more than one feature for everyone that's input. You're going to get parallelism. So in that block there's a total of about 300 workspaces that are run. You don't see it. And but what it does is to make sure that for each message in, there's exactly one message out. So the whole parallel block waits until all the workspaces are in there are done, and then it continues. And so we'll be talking about that. That's for 2021.1. So that's out in about a month. So that's out in July. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and so it's super exciting, giving you more control over where you get parallel processing done.
Ah, cool. So we also keep tracking what's going on in the industry so that we can be there to get data either to or from whatever the most recent things that are entering your IT environment are. And so there's a broad range of places that we're looking at. Actually, I'm just going to throw one in here that Don and I were talking about earlier today, and that's Airtable. If anybody is interested in Airtable, please let us know. We've had some users suggest that, and that might be one on sort of the databasey side. But on the design and AEC side, we're thinking of going after Rhino. We've actually had the libraries for doing this in FME for almost 20 years, but we may go the rest of the way on that. The mobile geodatabase, we always want to be supporting the Esri products. That's a key part of our market and a close partnership and friendship we have with Esri. And so they've got a SQLite-based geodatabase. So that's very high on the team's list, and that will happen unless there's some fundamental technology problem, which I highly doubt. So that'll be coming soon. A new area that Esri's working hard on is this knowledge graph, and we have some early support for that, and a reader and writer will be coming guaranteed to the data interop and FME, and that's going to open up a whole new set of a problem space really to be solved both with FME and Esri products at the same time. So that's pretty exciting. And on the database,
is that coming in the 2021 timeframe?
yes, the knowledge graph is going to be in 2021.1. It's a little secret, Don. It's actually in 2021.0, but it's hidden. So I probably shouldn't be saying that, but it will be there, kind of in a more robust way in the .1. And we're tracking. It's an emerging technology from Esri, so we're kind of tracking with them as it gets released. But we're working closely, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just on the database side in general, we got a lot of fronts that we are working to improve, and that team has had a lot of growth in terms of resourcing at SAFE. So we're pretty exciting about all these things. And I know, Don, you and I were just talking, or you were just raising some issues around enterprise logins, and that's going to continue to be a frontier.
Yeah, there's just so many ways that people want to, authenticate their databases, from Azure AD to, to SQL Server to OAuth is what we're dealing with now. And OAuth is kind of one of those specs that's a little bit, not quite nailed down. And so we continue to work with all these different things. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, timeouts. One thing that isn't on this list, which actually should be, is transactions. So there's a bunch of different things on the database side. Let us know in the chat or the comments which things would really matter to you as far as your enterprise database and FME goes. But we are definitely looking at a bunch of big things there. Well, we've had some customers ask for us to support this astronomy imagery format. So we're going to be adding that one of these days pretty soon. On the voxel side, we have a whole subsystem for voxels in FME already, but we haven't really added any formats. And I think actually the processing is almost there too. So watch for voxels at some point to come. NetCDF and, well, really Minecraft is voxels as well. We could model it that way. Yeah. So that, on your iPhone, if you're using iPhone to take photos, the native format is always HEIC, and sometimes those find their way into FME server and it causes heartache and sorrow. And so we don't want that to happen. And so we're going to support HEIC. It's a pretty good format, actually. And so, yeah.
Nice.
And then here's a big long list of other ones. Of course, we're always going to be working to make our Excel support. Excel is the #2 format in FME, and always more we can do there, and always more coming. HDF for the, is it hierarchical data format? Is that what it stands for, Don? Do you know? I think it is.
That's right.
So the version 5 of that. Cloud optimized GeoTIFF getting more and more traction, because more and more of that, of all those, what were they, petabytes or even more? I forgot the term you had there, Don, of the data that's being collected is going to find its way to be on the cloud. A lot of that is imagery. Zettabytes. And so if that stuff's up on the cloud, you don't want to haul it down to work on it. And so cloud optimized GeoTIFF lets you work with it in place. And so you can see the rest. Targa raster is actually because a lot of 3D formats have their textures in Targa for whatever odd reason. And point clouds in Postgres, people want to do that. And DFSU is a format that's used by the Danish something service. I can't remember what the F stands for, but it's a flood modeling tool. So, yeah.
Wow. Lots going on. Yeah. And of course, with many formats, we just continue to improve. So anything you have for anything we support now, let us know as well.
And the same on, this page too, it's sort of like a shopping list. If any of these would matter to you, chime in. We would have the technology to work with Navisworks. And so we just need to kind of get a motivation to do that. And yeah. So yeah, this would be on the AEC side.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the mobile roadmap now.
So we really think that the augmented reality side of things is a kind of a killer FME application, because you take data that's sitting in your organization's database that is not necessarily intended for use in AR. You run it through FME and we transform it and do the right thing to package it up so that you can experience it in the field like never before. And so that's a great thing that the whole end-to-end FME stack allows. And so some of these applications are starting to become pretty compelling.
Yeah, and the FME AR, the one I'm always excited about is probably the least impressive in some sense. It's the annotation. You know, you can see it on the light standard there, where basically you can imagine somebody in a truck, they're going around with their app, and as they look at different infrastructure, the attribution of that appears in front of them. You can imagine a guy in a truck going by, you know, seeing various infrastructure and having it pop up, and you can see it on the pipes there as well.
Yeah.
Could be, you know, how old they are, the materials they're made out of, and many things like that. So yeah.
And the other thing, we don't have a picture of it, but the portable hole technology that Dimitri has pioneered, where we use FME technology to basically drill a hole in the ground, and it provides the illusion of letting you look inside. And it's very, very impressive. And we're starting to see some customers adopt that too. So pretty exciting stuff. So what's coming up? Well, we're going to have an Android release. It won't quite catch up to the level of iOS, but it's going to be on its way. I just saw a demo of it yesterday, and it's looking very promising. And we're also looking to change the payload that's inside of our FME AR format to be USDZ for iOS and GLTF on the Android side. And USDZ also allows animated models, which are pretty impressive as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the labeling that that Don was talking about, some more stuff happening there. And eventually we may allow you to take action. So you tap on something and we realize what you're tapping on, and it could refresh the scene, that sort of thing. Or even as you move, maybe it refreshes automatically. So we're looking at a tighter integration of our AR together with FME server tech. And FME Data Express is a smart client for mobile devices that lets you run FME server apps in a native fashion. It's just had a nice overhaul, and it works very nicely with FME AR as well, and lets you do things like scan QR codes, get the GPS of the phone, and these kinds of things, and send that up to FME server and have it take action.
Yeah, no, lots of great stuff. Yeah, scalable and flexible deployments now. So the deployments of FME platform are drastically changing. And here's a map that shows one of our talks from the World's Fair. And it's basically a trip through the FME land of deployment. So you can see on-premise Oasis, Cloud City, Kubernetes Kingdom, and the serverless stratosphere.
Ooh.
And as well some future. So come to that one and learn all about all the different ways that you can deploy the FME platform.
I bet there's a roller coaster at the serverless stratosphere, Don, is there?
Gotta be, there's gotta be, yeah.
It's kind of like Space Mountain. It looks cool.
Yeah, so as we demonstrated, we had a webinar, I believe, on serverless. And so now you can run FME as in FME 2021.0 on AWS Fargate and Amazon EKS. And basically it builds on the great work we've done here on Kubernetes. And so that's really exciting, because no longer do you worry about machines of any kind, whether they be physical or virtual. You just launch the processing, the capabilities you need, and it just appears, and you don't have to do any management. So really, really exciting. Yeah. Yeah, and that's how we've
Yes.
you know, brought these large flexible deployments. So you can see 250 engines. Yeah, so really that's the future, is this ability to be able to scale these up, but then scale them down. That's really what you want. You want to have power when you need it, but you want to then collapse it when you don't need it. Yeah. And yeah, so more serverless is coming. And again, the key to this whole thing is the fact that we did a lot of work on Kubernetes. Yeah. And so we do AWS coming soon from Azure. Early days is their AKS called Virtual Nodes, and on Google GKE Autopilot. So both, we're working both with those to make both of those happen. So, you know, again, our whole shtick with FME is to make it platform agnostic. So you're able to run FME as anywhere you want. And typically the place you choose is a place that's really, really close to your data. So that's what it's all about.
One of the things that we've really been tracking is the ARM chip development. And there's two frontiers there. There's the Apple side of things, and of course, the Amazon AWS side of things. And actually, in the short term, the Amazon side is a bit more actionable for us. And so we've actually got FME running on ARM64 and doing some tests with it. And the thinking, we still have more work to do, but we really think this could be a nice, compelling price option price performance option for folks eventually to be running FME in there, either through FME Cloud or maybe their own instances. So so that's something that we're pretty excited about.
Yeah, yeah. And moving FME to the ARM chip wasn't that much work, actually, because as the Lizard points out there, historically, and actually we think it's 6. We think we missed one. But we used to run it on Solaris, HPUX, IBM, AIX, DEC Alpha, and Intel, of course. And
Yes.
Dale then and then you threw out another one. What was it,
I'm
Dale?
pretty sure we had an OEM for a while with our friends at Avenza that was on PowerPC. It was the old Apple PowerPC stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So going over to ARM so far hasn't been quite as scary as we thought. And obviously we got lots of work and testing to do, but it definitely is going to happen. And then we'll see what the economics are like. I haven't actually sat down to compare. I do know, I mean, I can throw this out there that compared to my Mac Mini, the Graviton 2 machine is about half the CPU speed. So now how that compares per cost, because of course it's using way less electricity to pull that off. So we'll see how this shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Really interesting. Yeah, and enterprise integration. Yeah, this is a big story. When did we introduce this? Was it 2018, 2019, something like that? We first introduced automations.
Yeah.
And those are all about enterprise integration. So that work continues on, and we're going to share some of that with you here. Yeah. So the first thing is in 2021.0, we introduced the concept of a manual trigger. And the way the manual trigger worked is you could paste in JSON that then would be passed to the workspace, and the automation framework would break down the high level to give the parameters to the workspace. And so now what we're doing is we're going to actually allow you to define parameters. So Dale talked earlier about a parameter builder. So you can imagine in workspace and server now, you'd be able to define, when you author your automation, you'd be able to define the manual trigger in terms of parameters. Under the covers, those parameters would be just packaged up to the JSON that the existing manual trigger gets. And so that'll make it's easy to run an automation that takes parameters as a workspace. And so that's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Zipster likes that. That'll be cool, but he wants more.
What is he going to get, Don? Will you tell us?
Yeah, we sure. So now that we have that, we'll be able to create these things called FME server automation apps that run automations. And so then there'll be 2 types. So we have FME server apps now that run workspaces. And we're seeing a tendency of customers to break down large workspaces into automations and smaller, because then they can get parallelism, other things can happen. Now with this, they'll be able to put the GUI on top of automations and put them in their FME server app, and distribute that and share those across their organization as well. So that's that's a big deal. That's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
It's worth eating popcorn over.
Like, are those is that the life size? Like, is the Lizard 6 feet tall and it's a huge box, Don, or is that?
I think it's a huge box.
That means that's really big popcorn.
Those are big kernels. Yes. Yes.
But this is a big deal, and if anything deserves big kernels, it's automation apps, I think.
That's right.
Oh no, there's more.
Yeah, there's more. Yeah.
Whoa.
What? Automation apps is enough. The Lizard's had enough. He says, whoa, stop. But wait, there's more.
Okay, Don, tell us.
Yeah, so this is automation templates. And so this is the ability with automation templates. What you can do is now, the challenge with automations right now is an author builds an automation, they deploy it, and then everything's built in. So if you want an automation that takes email and then pushes it to a Slack, everything is nailed down. There's no concept of really of this notion of a template. But now that we're going to have the manual trigger, you'll be able to do some things. And also we're going to allow you to expose other things like connection information to services. And so now an automation will be able to be shared by everyone. You will not have to be somebody who knows how to write automations. You'll be able to define the template, deploy the template, and then anybody will be able to deploy that. So it's sort of like we see with things like Zapier and Monday.com. You're seeing these in other things. And so the difference with FME, of course, is we have the full power of the FME engine underneath it. And so we're really able to do virtually anything. So not just really high level predictable things, but really, really complex things. So we're super excited about that. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, so right now, if you had 1,000 people in an organization and you wanted each one to have an automation to do something when they received an email, that would be 1,000 automations you would have to create. But, so the problem is now you'd create one. If I create a really good automation, I can't just really share it to Dale. Well, I could, but then it would be my automation that he would be, it's not going to do anything for him. And so we want to break that. We want to make it so that I could easily create a template and then share that. And then Dale or Elizabeth or anybody at SAFE could use it, or in your organization could just use it. And they wouldn't even have to understand what's going on underneath. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, it'd be really simple. You create an automation very much like you do today. You would just define parameters, and then you would then use that to create an automation template. And now these automation templates would be controlled via security like anything else. And now any user would be able to deploy those. It could even be within an FME server app where you could have these, fire up your automation. And so, yeah.
So Don, I think you're going to show us an example.
Yeah, we're going to, sort of an example. This is the vision of the example. So you can imagine you create an automation that is triggered by when a Gmail arrives, and then you want to use the information in that to maybe query some internal system, maybe Salesforce. And then depending on what you find, maybe in this case, they had an overdue balance, or maybe they have a credit. And then, you could check it in QuickBooks, and then you could take further action and then say, hey, the next time somebody's talking to that customer, let them know. Or another one is whenever Jira ticket's created that's assigned to me, it could send me a Slack message. And, so you can do lots of different things like that. So the idea is when I'm creating the automation, I can define parameters. And under the covers, of course, I could be talking to any number of internal systems, and FME supports, 400 now? I don't know, 500?
Well, probably more, yeah.
Probably more. So that's really the idea there. Yeah.
And part of this is going to be with time, us having a library of very small little workspaces that do a specific task against these various systems. And so you can imagine a day where some people could do forms of enterprise integration without actually firing up Workbench if we have a rich enough library of these pieces. So it's a very exciting frontier.
Yeah. And you can imagine the power of this in the cloud too. If you're talking with cloud services, you could easily, just start creating your own web automation templates that people deploy. We're looking for a better name, as the Zipster says. We love the functionality. The name isn't all that exciting though. So any ideas, just send them our way. So, yeah.
Well, they're at it. If they can come up with something better than the user parameter dialog builder, we're all ears too. Whoops. Wow. There you have it. Yeah.
Lots of exciting. I mean, the future of data obviously is bright. We saw in that graph that it's just, more and more data all the time, which means people need more and more data processing. And with IoT and all these things, spatial is only becoming more important. And so, the future of FME is bright too. And it's super fun too, to get to do what we do and work with the people we get to work with every day. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Don, is it time for popcorn?
Yeah, the Zipster thinks too. The lizard might be full. He's if he ate that whole box, and I hope he shared some. But yeah, it's always time for popcorn. Yeah. At SAFE, we brought a popcorn machine. That's kind of funny. And it arrived after we were in lockdown. So we've had it for probably close to a year now. Yeah, it's got to be a year. And it's never even been plugged in. So there you go. So
I'm afraid it's all going to be all seized up. I think it needs oil going through it to keep it nice and limbered up.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah. But yeah.
So if you have any ideas at all, like Dale and I and the whole team, we have an ideas exchange. So please do reach out, live chat anyway. And throughout the World's Fair, like reach out to us. And the big thing really is engaging you, our customers, and future customers.
Yeah, and we do look carefully. In fact, I saw one of the developers today had gone through the ideas exchange looking for things around his area of work, because we have this thing called Innovation Days coming up where you can work on anything you feel like. And literally he was combing through that to find something that customers might find interesting that would be up his area of expertise. So you never know what happens. Throw the idea out there, and then we'll see what we can do with it.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, so thank you so much. We're now going to take some live questions, and so Dale and I will be standing by for that. Before we start, though, we want to show you the whole map of the World's Fair, so that you can basically make sure you take full advantage of everything that's here. So our partner pavilion's really a treat. There's over 25 partners there, and so from around the world. After all, this is a World's Fair. You can't have a World's Fair if you don't have people from around the world, and so please stop in there. What's one of your favorites, Dale?
I like going on the FME data stream ride. I get a little bit wet, but it's a lot of fun. And so, so there's that. But seriously, the doctor's office is always fun for safers to hang out with. That's where, when we do live events, we learn so much from you, our customers and users, and definitely take advantage of that. Let us know what you're up to. Tell us your problems. Give us your kudos or your roses or your thorns, whatever it is. There's actually some sort of competitions going on too, Don. I think there's an escape room somewhere.
Yeah, there is, and I'm not sure, so check it all out. The photo booth sounds like fun. The social connect, you can learn how to connect with us on social media. The carnival competition, maybe that's where it is. I don't know. That's an interesting one too.
Yeah, don't know. But anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. And I think now we'll switch to Future Don and Future Dale, who are going to start answering your tough questions. So we'll see you then.
Yep. Take care. Thank you.